All right, Chiefs Kingdom, you're here, we're here, he's here. We're going to do the whole thing. We have some fresh news to talk about with Mike Hughes coming to town. We'll see when he does that. And they actually signed a draft class. I think Seth's pretty high on it. But I think we're going to get to that off the top and just see where we ramble. This is RGR Football. Oh, look at that. There's eyeballs in there. Welcome back, folks. This is RGR Football. This is Seth Keysor, and this is the Chief in the North live stream. How are you, bud?
I'm doing awesome, man. Good to see you again. It's the first time we've been able to talk in consecutive weeks since
2018.
About 2018. Yeah. It's been a minute. And so this is great. It feels more real now. Like last week was like, we had the announcement and things kind of fell into place really quickly. And now it's like, texting this week and making a plan and stuff. It's starting to feel official. Like I keep seeing those logos right up. I can't quite point to them correctly. I can't. Yeah, I'm leaning the wrong way. That's fine. I keep seeing those logos up there together, and I'm just like, man, those look terrific. Those are just shout out to my guy RJ designing mine, which I have no artistic talent. Could never do that. He did. But life is good, man. Life is good. There's even some leaves growing on some trees here in Minnesota now. So,
well, hey, once you guys thaw out, it all comes on pretty quickly, doesn't it?
It does. And then my allergies make my head go womp. And so that's terrific fun. And to top it off, I mean, we thought we were going to just, be answering questions and be hanging out and stuff. But Brett Veach,
right?
He never stops. He never stops.
Oh,
he just does it. I love that about him. You never know what's going to happen except something is going to happen. I mean, he's so aggressive. And what I think I've seen, and now obviously, I mean, you'll be the guy to break down the entire thing. So what is it? So the Chiefs traded for Mike Hughes with the Vikings. They gave a 6th-round pick, and the Vikings give up Mike Hughes and a 7th-round pick.
Yep.
Right? And considering where the Chiefs and the Vikings land in the hierarchy of the NFL, you're probably talking a difference of maybe 20 picks, if that.
Yeah, I was going to say half a round in general, somewhere around
there. And so, I mean, probably a win for the Vikings, who are probably going to cut the guy anyway, based on what I know. Yeah. And for the Chiefs, it's a flyer on a guy that I could be wrong here. You follow the draft closer than I do. I feel like Mike Hughes' name was a name that got thrown around a lot when he was coming out, and a lot of Chiefs fans really wanted him.
Yeah, he was really, really popular because back then, this is pre-Fenton, right? So the nickel was a question, and he fits in the nickel pretty well. I had him as a mid-second, quite frankly, nearly the bottom tier, because I kind of do it in chunks of 10. But I had him. I thought he fit best in the nickel. He's got great change of direction. His short area quickness is good and explosive. He doesn't have the long speed. Honestly, he's built a little bit shorter, but a lot like Fenton, in that he's susceptible to long speed, but he moves well in short areas. He's physical. He can play press man. He can do a lot of those same things. It's like they have a type.
Especially guys that'll potentially be in the slot. Oh, man, I just realized I might not have my buy drink. Nope. Crisis averted. I do. And that's not an advertisement, by the way. I just really like them.
But if you're looking for someone to sponsor, we're here all the time.
It occurred to me today that I've been drinking a buy drink every time I've been on a video, whether it's with you or with Tucker Franklin. And it's just like, you know what? I'm going to start drinking it as I open it, and just refreshing with just a tiny amount of caffeine and none of the calories. See, I was born to do this.
You were.
But with Hughes, I mean, there's a lot of potential there. My understanding of his career arc, no, for everyone who's asked, I have not looked at his film yet. And I know we've already got super chats. So just tell me whenever we need to shut up and do that. I haven't looked at any of his film yet. I'm sorry. Day job. You know how it goes. I'm going to try to get a little bit in tonight. Maybe have something for you on the Chief of the North newsletter tomorrow morning. We'll see. Because with corners, it's really useless unless you cover multiple games. I could look up some of his highlights and show you some traits, But we all know that based on his scouting. So I'd really need to really delve into like at least 4 or 5 games. And even then with corner, because the play level just varies so much year to year for almost everyone except, the absolutely elite guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about him other than my understanding is that he had a good rookie year. And the reason I know that, at least in general, is that Vikings fans who live by me all loved him after his rookie year and felt like, he's a guy that you could help build a defense around, maybe not a superstar, but a really good player. And the wheels have just fallen off since then.
Yeah. And injury's been a large part of it. I don't think that's the only part of it. He definitely doesn't feel like he's progressed as much to me. I took a quick look at a couple of games. I think it was week 3 and 4 or something he played last year, earlier this afternoon after the news broke. Well, I was here and, it was happening. The kids weren't home from school yet. So
you'd had your buy drink.
I am drinking Numi's Moroccan mint tea. So yeah, that's what was fueling me. And before we go any farther, Ben Brotbeck, thank you very much. He's given us like 4 super chats already. And we might as well answer his question before we get any farther down this line, because it does tie in with UDFAs, including some guys that are smaller sized. Do you think Boodle can make it A? And where do you think Hughes ties in there? Because he is an undersized guy as well. I think that, again, they're looking for that nickel spot. Thank you, Ben.
Sure. Well, you want to go first? Should I take it first? The first super chat of the night.
You go ahead, man.
This is a big moment.
I know.
I don't count on undrafted free agents to make the team ever. And he's no exception. And that's not to say he can't play. I played decent college player. I mean, that's just how it goes. As an undrafted free agent, you have an unbelievably tall hill to climb. You see former players talk about this all the time. It's not just about the fact that it's naturally hard to make it in the NFL. The reality is when you're an undrafted free agent, you're not going to get the same number of chances. Draft pedigree matters. A first-round pick teams are going to assume that they can bring out what they saw in college, right? They're going to assume that. Whereas with an undrafted free agent, they might get a training camp, if that.
Yeah.
Whereas a first-round pick, they're going to get that training camp. They're going to get that whole first and second season, probably a third season. They have to fail. Whereas undrafted free agents, they have to succeed to make it. Whereas first round, second round, third round, fourth round picks, even they just have to not fail. Well, and then one other thing I would say, did I say that right? I think I did.
No, you did.
It's the one other thing I would say is taking size into account with corners. It's worth noting corners at the NFL level. You're starting to see them get bigger now at this point. I don't buy into the size thing that much. I mean, as long as a corner anywhere between 5'9" and up, I'm comfortable with. It's just like wide receiver in a lot of ways, in my opinion, in that physicality, change of direction, ball skills, that all matters so much more than size. And all things being equal, sure, bigger guy is better. But those things are almost never equal. So I wouldn't say just because those guys are similarly sized means they're all going to need that same role.
Well, I'll tell you this. I agree with you. 5'10's my cutoff. I don't like 5'9. It makes me nervous. But I also don't go for anybody over 6'2 as well, because I think you lose movement at that point for the most part. There are always people that are standouts. For me, it's not the height, it's the arm length that makes the bigger difference.
Ooh.
So that's one of the things that I watch real closely.
Arm length, yeah, that makes sense.
And these two guys in particular, Boodle has a little more length, and some of the other guys don't, and that's fine. But it's funny what you were talking about in what the legacy gets you. That's actually the same thing we're seeing with Mike Hughes right now. He's getting a second team to take that chance on him because
100%.
of that legacy.
100%. What you do in college, especially in the NFL, but in any pro sport, it's going to affect you throughout your pro career. And I mean, there's just more to it. You're going to be known more. You're going to get more chances. And that's what Hughes is getting here, because Brett Veach saw something that he did in college, the same thing that a lot of people saw when he was in college, maybe his rookie year, and says, I think we can bring that out in him. And we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. I will say, so I have a lot of faith in this coaching staff with corners. they've done a great job developing guys. And it's worth noting, I mean, you've got Fenton, a late round pick, Sneed, a mid-round pick, which really for a corner is a late round pick, honestly.
Yeah.
These are flyers. Ward was traded for a ham sandwich. And
Ward was Boodle.
Ward was Boodle, absolutely. And that's a really great point to not write a guy off. And you see you've got these guys, Breland was kind of signed off the scrap heap in a sense, even though I don't think it's really fair what's happened to him. And so they've developed guys that are young guys. Breland came in, had good tape. The rest of these guys they developed. The one hang up for me in that, as much faith as I have in Spagnuolo and his assistants who have done a great job, is if you can't succeed in a Mike Zimmer defense as a corner, there are very few coaches I trust more to develop and know cornerback than Mike Zimmer. But at the same time, Mike's defenses have been slipping the last few years.
That's a good point, but it's also Mike Zimmer isn't hands-on with the corners anymore. He's
That's
not a coordinator. He's not in their face all the time. Generally, I would agree with you as well. And I do think that the more successful guys in his scheme happen to be the taller group, the guys that have the length, not only in arm, but in height as well. So maybe it's a fit issue. Certainly the injury thing is a problem. We can get around that. If they can get him healthy, they can get him healthy. If they can't, there's nothing that can change that. But
absolutely,
I think Sam Madison's done a pretty good job. I'm not happy with Ward's progression. I don't feel like he's improved year after year after year. So I'm a little concerned development-wise for him. But like you said, with Sneed seriously making big jumps, especially coming from La Tech, Fenton as well, I think you have to have some faith that they can get something out of Mike Hughes that maybe another scheme and the other staff weren't able to.
That's a really good point. And with regards to Ward's year-by-year development, that's a great point. And I wouldn't say like Breland, although he was a veteran by the time he came around, I wouldn't say he's necessarily developed. And Fenton was pretty similar his first and second year. So maybe it's less about development, and maybe they are just that good at saying, okay, this is what these guys can do. We're going to put them in these situations to where they rarely get exposed. There's a reason why every now and then you'll have some play where like Bashad Breland just gets roasted deep.
Mm-hmm.
And when it happens, you're like, whoa, but then it occurs to you like, man, that hardly ever happens. And the guy with his speed limitations, you'd think it would happen more often, but they're smart about how they use these guys. And that's one thing about Spagnuolo that's been great from day one. He does not put defenders in positions to not succeed. And with a guy like Hughes, maybe that is it. Maybe with Zimmer, there's just different responsibilities that he couldn't handle. Fit's a big deal. Spags and Zimmer, not the same. No. And so, it'll be interesting to see. And I love collecting corners. I love that they've now got Baker and Hughes. It's like finally some first round corners. Just they came about in a roundabout way.
Well, it's funny that you said that too. And Claude, thank you very much for the super chat. Nice to see you.
You know what, Claude? Just for that super chat, you get our first. You belong here, Claude.
I'm gonna love that bit. I'm pretty sure. But I
love it.
I also want to say, Claude, I want to get back with you from what we talked about last year. I revisited that document and hook me up. And I also want to say, for all of you who are new to this show, click the like and the sub and the bell notification because we're going to keep doing this and you get all of the other content. The bell is kind of important because a lot of folks miss these, particularly the live shows, because they don't get notifications, and that's what the bell is for. So check that out. Claude's gone back for a while. I want to get with you, all you new members. There was a bunch of you this week that went up to the All-Pro and the Elites, and I didn't get contact information from you. So my email address that you can contact me is on the About page of this channel. You can also DM me on Twitter, either or, but I need contact information for you so I can include you in the Zooms and the member streams. So keep that in mind, okay? And that is to say, welcome to the memberships, Lil Caddy.
Ooh, and if you guys get the Super Elite membership, what I'll do is I'll pull up Ryan's number on here and I'll just flash it onto the screen.
That's relevant.
That does not constitute a verbal offer in the state of Colorado where Ryan is broadcasting from. I should probably be clear on that. I don't even know if that's true that that's not a verbal offer, but let's have it not be.
Let's say that it's not, and we'll go from
there. Let's say that it's not. Fine, I'll keep your number to myself. I'll dox you another day.
So when we take a step back from all that, I think, development's going to be important. I think the fit is going to be important. But Josh has a good question, and I'm just going to kind of layer these in here as we go through this because the development is serious. But when you take a look at the whole thing, Do you think they're better off now than they were a year ago? And then I have a take on what the rumor is about Breland.
Oh, I like rumors. I saw a few rumors on Twitter. I haven't had time to text any of my guys that actually know people, so I haven't heard any rumors. I'm not important enough to know people, but I know people who know people, and that's just as good. Like,
you and me both.
Yeah. It's like, you have sources? No, but I know people who know people. That is a great question. Do you think it's an upgrade? Here's the interesting thing. The answer is always it depends. It's really easy to look at Jaron Reed being added to the front and say, yeah, I think so. I think a good pass rushing defensive lineman as a third guy is a big development in Spag's system, right? And I could see the argument being made that, hey, they're the same at the safety position, except Thornhill is, last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, not Thornhill who had guys running by him, early on in the season. Because he did. That was hard to watch. I actually wrote about that in the newsletter, or maybe it was even at The Athletic, where it was just, I pointed out just a few specific plays where running backs, I think it was against Tampa Bay the first time they played, just ran right by him and he couldn't get the angle. And that's just something that didn't happen to him his rookie year. His speed was unbelievable. And you saw that return like in the AFC Championship where he just played lights out. And even the Super Bowl, it's not like he played badly. That was just he really didn't have a chance to do much because of the way that game transpired. And so that's going to matter, right? So, but the safety group largely the same. Defensive front should be improved in theory. So much is going to ride on Clark, and that just is what it is at this point. Can he be fully healthy and play as strong as he played in Seattle? And that's something that this summer I'm going to be reviewing about 10 to 15 games of his from this last year because something's going on there. Something's going on.
You'll get no argument from me. Dan is convinced that it's internal gastric issue. I know he had some stomach viruses, etc., something like that. Like, I'm not sure what it is. But guys, the newsletter he's talking about is right here at Substack. Make sure you check that out.
And if you check it out, if you go to bit.ly/Seth really hates money, it'll give you an ability to subscribe for 60% off, $12 a year forever. I don't jack the price up after a year. And for what it's worth, if you're in a position, it's been a tough year for people to where you can't subscribe. And I should have said this last week. If you're in a position where $12 a year is something you can't swing, I get that. I've been there. Like my first my first 3 years of marriage, Jazz and I, for like our anniversary, we're like, well, can we afford to get like a chocolate shake from McDonald's? Like, I've been there. And so if that ever happens, DM me or DM Ryan and he'll send you to me somehow and let me know and we'll work it out because I never, ever, ever want price to be a reason someone can't subscribe. So check that out. Anyway, with Clark, it's going to be one of the huge factors there. Is he 2019 Clark? Right. Is he 2020 Clark? Is he 2018 Clark? Turn on 2018 film. Clark's last year in Seattle or his last 3 years in Seattle. It's not like people are like, oh, he got paid, so he got whatever. That's just not who that guy is.
I don't think so either.
I think there's something physically wrong with him, and I'll never know probably exactly what it is. But to be that as it may, so you're working through position group by position group. That just leaves the linebackers, and we'll see. I think they might miss Damien Wilson, but I really like Willie Gay Jr. I think he adds athleticism, and Nick Bolton I think fills a certain role and has the bona fides to come in and play right away and not be a hindrance. So I think the linebacker group stays relatively similar. And Bolton, he might shock everyone in terms of, because, the man was the best linebacker 2 years in a row maybe arguably the best linebacker in the best conference in college football. Is that an exaggeration? I mean, he was there, if not up there. He was in the conversation.
He was definitely up there. He also had a lot of guys in front of him that didn't make a lot of tackles. So
that's accurate. Yeah. Don't talk to me about inside linebacker total tackles because that's not great.
Yeah, that's a function of the scheme as much as anything else.
Absolutely, always. So I think they've put themselves in a position because now with corner, the Breland thing matters, right? Because there's a big question mark there, and I've seen Breland get some hate like on Chiefs Twitter and stuff, and I mean Breland has been their most consistent corner like 2 straight years.
Yeah.
And it's not even close. And I really like Snead's upside, but that's a small sample size. And corner's dangerous. So that'll depend. If they get Breland back, then they at least stay the course as a floor and potentially can be higher. And so then I think you would argue that they should be improved by staying the course and having one pretty decent addition with Jaron Reed. What do you think?
My big thing is, what does Reed's addition do for Frank? Is there a synergy there? Does the equal add up to more than its parts? Because they played together, because they have that kind of camaraderie, because they can push each other, because quite frankly, neither of them played as well since they last played together. So maybe they can both take a step up. I don't know. Big Test, thanks. I'm glad you're from the beginning when we used to podcast together.
Yes.
That's awesome. And
that
Ben,
makes me so happy.
there's like 20 corners at this point. I don't know who's got the best chance. I think the Chiefs are going to end up liking Ward. I think Snead and Fenton are going to be your starters right now. But that brings me back to Breland, because there is rumor out there from a couple of different sources. One that I think does have some connections, and one that I think makes stuff up a lot. And I will just tell you my take on the Hughes signing. I don't know that the Chiefs went out and solicited the Vikings for Hughes. I doubt that's the case, to tell you the truth, because of his performance on the field. My guess is the Vikings put out word, hey, we signed Patrick Peterson. We're going to let him go. Does anyone want dibs, basically? And I think that's an opportunity, and is the thing that we've seen from Veach in the past. Former first-round pick, reclamation project, not a problem. But I will say this, it doesn't necessarily mean that Breland is gone or not coming back, but I think it's most likely that. The other option is that they don't feel that DeAndre Baker is on track to be ready for camp and be ready to participate week 1. So they're hedging their bets there as well. Both of those or none of those could be part of it. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Breland now, because this should spark some more interest in him, whether it's from the Chiefs or someone else. But
yeah, I can't understand how Bashaud Breland is not signed by an NFL team right now. I mean, well, I can understand some things, but I mean, last year he had the suspension hanging over his head. What does he have? I would say 4 straight years of playing corner at either a slightly above average to well above average level, depending on the year. And that is not easy to find. It's not. And that's one thing people tend to take for granted. Average corner play is very valuable.
The Chiefs bet on it every year.
They do. They have, and it's paid off. They've had some games where you can see they get a little overmatched. Tampa Bay's receiving weapons were tough. Although, I mean, it's not like the receivers were the problem. There was, the fact that they were up 3 scores and they could just play action them to death and attack the middle of the field and put some guys in space that shouldn't be in space. But that's a whole nother ball of wax, right? Yeah. And so I just don't understand. Maybe there's more going on underneath the surface, or maybe he's just, he's reached a point with his agent where he says, man, I can't do this 1-year deal thing anymore. I'm going to hold out for more money. And maybe he's just going to wait. He's shown he's willing to do that in the past. Wait until the last dog is hung and, their training camp injuries occur, and he's hoping some team will give him a little more, because this year-by-year thing has to have been tough for him.
Yeah. I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how it comes out, because I don't know there's much else that you can get done. I don't know if there's more trades in the future. We could see something else happen, like the pre-camp or the early camp trades like we've seen from Veach in the past. So I won't rule it out.
Yeah.
But it's going to come out of left field, though. It's going to be something that only he knows about, because we can't predict, who's going to want to move one of their lower-end corners. Or, quite frankly, when I saw the news, I just saw a Chiefs trade. I thought it was going to be for an edge. That's what I was thinking. So I don't know, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I could have seen that happening. The edge and corner seem to be places where they're just a little more comfortable. Yeah, we'll see what they do. I think the Hughes thing is interesting. I think you might be onto something with the Baker idea, but I would caution fans against thinking that this is necessarily an impact on Breland. I mean, they're just not in the same stratosphere right now in terms of what they've done in the league the last few years.
The only thing is I think it's like 1.8 against the cap is the hit for Hughes. So we're talking about getting down to the point where if it is a money thing, which is what I think it is with Bashaud Breeland, I think you're starting to run out of cap space unless you get Tyron extended. So it's going to be interesting there because I don't know how much more you have to give to feel safe. We don't have the numbers from today, folks. They signed the entire draft class, so that will hit here in the next couple of days. And hopefully, we'll have the official numbers at that point.
It's usually 3 or 4 million, I think, in the first year.
Yeah, it depends. And without having a first rounder, it should be a little bit less than that. So knock on wood. So
good point.
We'll see. Jake, good question on the schedule. We'll get into that in just a minute. I would say a sleeper is Washington. I just don't know if I think they can really put up a fight or not. We'll go through that in a little more depth here in a second. Gooch, Stevie, I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you for the super chats. I see them. We're going to get to them, I promise. I'm going to send you both an email with the other one's email in it, unless you guys tell me or Aaron down below that you don't want that. That way you two can talk and not have to, throw super chats left and right. I feel like I'm costing you guys dollars.
I mean, but we're not going to fight you on it if that's what you want to do. I mean, whoa, right, Ryan, as your representation here, take it easy. Let's not say anything we might regret here.
Thank you, counselor. I appreciate that. So let's finish it up. I don't know who's going to be where. My guess is, unless Bashaud Breeland is back, you're going to see Snead on the outside. Does that ring true to you?
Oh, yeah. I think even if Breeland comes back, I think you'd probably see Snead on the outside when there's 2 corners on the field. I think he'd be able to push Ward out in terms of, when they've got 2 corners on the field. And then when you end up in, 3 corner sets, then I think they roll Snead inside and bring in Ward or maybe Fenton, depending on what the rest of the guys do. And that's one reason why I would like to see them bring Breeland back, because then they've got 4 corners that I'm comfortable with. Yeah. Ward's lack of development has been a bummer, just because he flashed a lot that first year. And, and you and I've talked about this, you always assume there's going to be this continual uplifting of players, but that's not how it works all too often. And with Ward, that's an example where he's kind of been that same guy around an average corner, a little above average sometimes, a little below average sometimes. And there's value in that. Again, he's helped the Chiefs win a lot of games, but it's you need 4 of those guys if you want to be comfortable. Yep, at least. And that's where I really would like to see them bring back Breeland, because otherwise you're in a position where, it's Snead, Fenton, Ward, and then a lot of questions.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with him being the safety net. Start the young kids if you want. Just let them be there is my thought. So
yeah.
Julian, how are you? Yes, I did get your email. I responded on Instagram, so hopefully you got that back. And I'll be hitting you up next time we do a members only there, because I want to keep that going. Metal Rocker, you're one of those. I do have some new members I have to shout out real quick, Seth. Sorry about that.
That's absolutely fine.
Caddy's one of them.
Woo!
Let's see. Eric Schneider made it. Sexy Accident, I need your email. Daryl Miller, I need yours. Teddy Carlton and Metal Rocker, I need yours. If you guys can either find the email at the back end on the about page of this channel, or hit me up in a DM on Twitter. Yes, I know where you're going.
I'm going. We're already there. I don't need to go anywhere with that name. There's nowhere to go. We've arrived.
It is there. Gooch says, wait, super elite? Seth adding tears out here. He's sold.
I got your back, Gooch.
You belong here on Seth's exercise equipment. Yes, I resemble that remark. What does Seth's background keep telling the rest of us? We don't need that negativity, Seth.
Oh, wow. I hadn't even occurred to me. So the way that it's set up, so, you've got the bike here, right? And you notice you belong here is behind the bike. It's saying you don't need this. You don't need this negativity in your life. True story. I used to use this all the time. I actually really like it because, it's like a recumbent bike type deal.
Right.
And then my kids, whom I love, because, kids, they're like miniature cyclones going all over your house, just breaking everything, ripped the cord right out of it, like tripping over it. And so now I have a very heavy paperweight.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So you belong here. Not here. You don't need that.
No.
You're perfect just the way you are.
Oh, that's so nice. Look at that. Lance, is RGR part of Chief in the North? You would probably say it's the opposite at this point, but we're collaborating. We're worlds colliding. Seth doesn't want to start a channel, so he gets to come on here and not have to worry about any of it.
I just want to talk football with Ryan and not have to do anything that requires me to do anything technologically. But no, the Chief in the North is part of RGR. I am here under the fold of our beloved leader, great leader, and very benevolent master, Ryan Tracy.
Wow.
I, for one, welcome my new Ryan Tracy overlords.
Oh, that's so nice. I'm so bad at it. You'll have free reign.
Sweet. That works out really nicely for
me. Yeah, Gooch, Stevie, I'll hook you guys up. I'll send you individual emails, I guess. Hey, it's going to be what it is. We have some questions. Julian's got one. Should we start on that?
Yeah, let's roll, man. Then we can talk schedule and all sorts of other stuff. 31 minutes. How does this go by so quickly? This is becoming my favorite part of this job. I like this.
I know, right? It's like we're just on the phone before a podcast. Yeah. It's like, oh, where are we going to go? And then half an hour's gone. Okay.
You just got to be careful what you say. It's like, you know what I really think of? Redacted. You got to be careful with that kind of stuff.
Beep.
Yeah. Catch me on a tired enough day. Maybe we'll get one of those.
No, we won't. It's okay. You might get one from me. Just wait. We'll do.
That's more likely. We'll get Matty V on here, and we'll get him on a tired day. He'll say all sorts of stuff.
We'll do Chief in the North after hours. Is what we'll do.
Yes.
Oh, good Lord. Julian, you still think that they need linebacker, D, and safety corner next year's draft, maybe one more receiver? I think you're probably right because you're going to see some departures at all of those positions. So
yeah,
I'm perfectly down with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Seth is so real. I agree with you, Baltimore.
Baltimore Xanax. Don't just say part of it. That's just that, I'm going to be honest with you. That's just that Xanax, Baltimore. It's not really me. I'm not that funny, but whatever works.
It does work. And I don't like X's. I never pronounce them. Is Xavier? I don't know. I'm glad you guys are fed and well rested. That's great. Thank you, Ryan Strange. Thank you, Stevie Keys. Thank you. See, now there's my benevolent leader is Mr. Gooch. The super elite level will be called the Gooch level eventually.
Yeah. There's going to be layers to all this. Sure.
Let's see what Mez has. Mez, I appreciate all the help on social media as well. So thank you. Do you think Spags and or Reed trust Willie Gay Jr. because they get the feel? I get the feeling they don't, is what he said.
I think they didn't. Last year, and I think the proof was in the pudding there in terms of snap count, right? You can't tell me that Willie Gay Jr. isn't a markedly better athlete than anyone else they have, other than Dorian O'Daniel, which is a whole nother conversation. And so I think if I were to criticize anything with Spagnuolo, it's tough because I think he's done a great job. He loves it on, as far as I can tell, linebackers that, are just like guys that know everything about the defense, right? Inside and out, lining guys up, and I just don't think Spags trusts young players in general. Now, maybe we'll see. For all we know, what if Nick Bolton's out there playing, all the will snaps and then comes in as the second linebacker next year? Then we'll know a lot more. And that's one of the cool things about the Bolton pick.
It also says something about Bolton because he called the defense for 4 years at Mizzou or 3 years at Mizzou, whatever it was. And he clearly, if you guys missed my film review, I did the first half of my film review last night. It's up on the channel. You could see him making adjustments, not just to the front, but to the linebackers. He's moving safeties around. Like he's commanding that defense. That is a big attraction. Athletically, it's fair to say that they replace him with a slightly better Anthony Hitchens, but it's that field general type. For you Madden players, that's what he should be listed under. Whereas Willie is like a heat-seeking missile. You guys got to remember, he played 5 games his senior year at Miss State. He didn't call the defense then. It was never his thing. He is a weapon, not a general, in my opinion.
I really like that analogy. And he is a guy. The thing is, he looks very fluid and natural in coverage. I think he's got good instincts for it. And you can be the weapon. You can be good in coverage without being the field general. And that's where Spags and House are going to have to figure out what exactly they want out of each of their linebackers. Because, man, I got to tell you what, Tyrann Mathieu can help call out the defense. Like, get me a linebacker who can reliably cover and get sideline to sideline like a missile, like Willie Gay Jr. can. And I think you can see, and we talked about this last week, the long-term plan there, I think, for them is Bolton, a more athletic version of Hitch, ideally, right? In your perfect world, you upgrade the athleticism 10%, and you got a really good linebacker there next to the heat-seeking missile, and you got two guys that you can trust in coverage and a really good linebacker duel. So that's the plan. In terms of trust, though, we've taken kind of a long road to a short thought. They clearly didn't trust him all the way last year, but I also would say I think they liked Damien Wilson a lot too. Damien Wilson was a player that they had a lot of respect for, and they could trust to do everything they asked, because he would line up in all sorts of different spots. And always did them to the best of his ability. So I think you're going to know a lot more from what you see this year as opposed to what you see last year, where they really just had linebackers that they liked. And then as Gay Jr. snaps started to go up, he got hurt. And so we'll know a lot more come week 1.
Yeah, I think the worst thing that happened to Willie Gay last year was not making the playoff run, because I think that jump of one more level up would have made a big difference. And I always thought Damien Wilson, I'll say this, he was a more athletic Reggie Ragland. If Reggie had his athleticism, Reggie would still be playing in Kansas City.
Yeah, because Reggie could do a lot of cool things. I like the way that Spags found a way to use the things Reggie could do. It's like, hey, but what if, and hear me out, what if we put another defensive end outside the defensive end? And it's like, yes, let's do that. Let's get crazy. And it would work. Yeah. What if we added a dude who can hold the edge against tackles? I mean, it was great stuff.
What a concept. Scott Meza, he wants to know, with CEH and McKinnon, what's your thoughts on the run game and how does Andy use them? And I will just say this before you take over. Don't forget about Darryl. He's earned it. Oh, and Seth's going to drink now. Okay. Evidently, I shut him up.
Look, Darryl has earned a role in the offense. I'm really curious what we're going to see out of Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year. So the conversation with running backs is always complicated because they're so dependent on the blocking in front of them and their role within the offense. Edwards-Helaire did not get remotely the role in the passing game that I think we all assumed he would. And that was one of the most frustrating things to watch last year, because you'd see plays where they'd ask him to run complicated routes down the field, or he'd have to make a play and adjust on the ball. And it's like, dude looks like a receiver doing this stuff. Why aren't we doing more of it? But also, when he ran the ball, the run blocking, it's not a matter of he couldn't work with average run blocking. The run blocking was really bad last year. And if they even get to average, I think people are going to be surprised. It's kind of funny because we talk about Clyde like he was a bust or something.
Right.
And he played, I think, 13 games, had 1,100 yards, despite being a little underutilized. And like, had he been drafted in the 3rd round and not had all that running back in the 1st round controversy surrounding him, people would be thrilled. They say, wow, what a great rookie year. But instead, it's like, oh, it's kind of disappointing. It's like, well, we'll see. I think Clyde's in for a big year. And I really like the McKinnon signing too. He can play if he can stay healthy. Yep.
As long as he's there, he's a really nice change of pace.
Yes.
And I don't mean come in and just catch passes. Like, I think he can run pretty well too, but it is about the health with him. Chris wants to know sacks and pressures. Is it a plus or a minus for Jones and Clark this year? I think Jones is about even. I think Clark rebounds.
I think Jones has been an elite pass rusher he was a really good pass rusher his first year. And I think he's been elite basically every year since then. The sacks have gone up and down a little bit, which they're going to, but the pressures, the hits, they've always been there. Regardless of what one might think of PFF, I like some of their quantitative analysis where they chart some of those things. I think that's valuable, even if the grades to me are a little more subjective and people can agree and disagree on stuff. But Jones is always just right up there at the top. So I think Jones will be right up there. And the thing with Jones is he'll have probably at least 6 sacks, right? But because of all the other things that can affect how many sacks a guy gets, pressure from elsewhere, luck, matchups, that sort of stuff. He could have anywhere between 6 and 18. But he's going to be, if he doesn't have 18, those 12 that would turn into that, they'll be hits or pressures.
Yeah, right.
With Clark, that's going to be the $1 million question. If he returns to what we saw in Seattle, which I think was him fully healthy, the defense that pass rush could be pretty brutal.
Yeah. It's interesting that you get to the pass rush because Nathan wants to know who's the starter opposite him. Who do you think it is?
I don't think it's going to matter so much who takes the very first snap of every game. I'm guessing the guy who takes the first snap usually at this point would be Mike Dana.
Uh-huh.
I'm guessing because, snap one, he's a better run defender than Taco Charlton, and I'm not sure it's that close, honestly. No. Really, man, Dana just came in. Not enough gets talked about the fact that he 5th round pick comes in and plays at an okay level. I mean, an average level doesn't hurt the team. That is so hard to do.
It is.
When coming in at defensive end, he's so disciplined. And he really, him and Wharton both coming in and playing even at borderline replacement level. I mean, that's impressive for lower level rookies. But I think it'll be Dana. And then I think Charlton will be more in on some of those pass rushing downs. And they keep talking about Chris Jones at edge. And the defensive tackles are in Chris's ear. Nate Taylor pointed this out to me. That Tershawn Wharton and Colin Saunders Chris, you want to take more snaps at edge, buddy.
Right? Get out there.
And I mean, they may or may not have some reasons for wanting him on the edge because then they get more snaps. So I do think you're going to see that more with Jones. How much more, I think, will depend on his ability to handle some of the responsibilities playing right there. And honestly, I'm not sure if you want to, and you and I have talked about this, when you've got a guy who is just utterly elite at this one thing, and playing 3-tech, why would you do that differently very often? So I think you'll see Jones there more too. So I think it'll be Dana, Charlton, and Jones.
I think it's going to come down to who makes the bigger leap this year, Taco or Tershawn. Because if Tershawn can actually improve his pass rush, that I think allows you, and I think Tershawn can play on the edge as well. So
he's got the athleticism for it. Mm-hmm. His tools are insane. He's one of those guys, when you watch him on the plays that he does something really well, you think you're looking at a future superstar.
Right.
And then you have 30 snaps where kind of nothing happens. So, right. But I mean, Wharton is a guy that could play on the edge. Absolutely.
Rookie UDFA. I'm gonna give him this. This should be a big bounce, especially if they do end up going to OTAs. This should be a big bounce.
Absolutely.
We're gonna see. And thank you again, Gooch. Joseph Jackson, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed the Bolton one. I know it's only part 1, but we'll get there. Has there been anything that has surprised you so far about him? As I've broken him down, he actually plays a little bit faster than I thought. And I went out of my way over the last couple of weeks, and this is why it's taking so long, is I'm calling in favors. I'm getting all 22 from places that I can't get all 22 from normally, so that I can see something other than the couple of games that were pretty high profile. I started with Florida because everybody saw Florida, right? But his deficiencies, I think he covers up against prime competition a little bit better than I had from the 3-4 games that I had watched pre-draft. The limits are still there, but I think overall the package, I feel better about Bolton now than I did pre-draft. So
if I would join in on that, I am in the same place in what surprised me a little bit because I cover the Chiefs. I had heard a little bit about Bolton prior to the draft, more than my usual nothing that I know about anyone. So I knew enough to know that his athleticism numbers were, they weren't great, in terms of his testing numbers. I was surprised how fast he played. If you were to just watch his film, you would not think he would be a guy that would test as a subpar athlete.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe it was a bad day testing.
That happens.
It does.
Yeah, because there's only the one pro day this year. There's no combine.
No combine. There's no double chance, right? You can't clarify anything.
Right. And that's, because you see that sometimes with guys, they just have a terrible combine. They blow it away at their pro day. So I mean, we'll see. That's going to be one of the more kind of interesting subplots there, because I think he's got the mental goods to get on the field early, and if physically he's better than those numbers show, he's going to be hard to keep off the field.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the leadership potential. He's got a great story about what he's gone through in his life to overcome everything. So there's intangibles on the field that fans will never see that are going to be important for the team and for the teammates that he plays with. So there are the things that go into it. I won't be surprised if he is the starter next season, and I think they can function that way. I do want him to get with Derek Johnson though, because he's got to get more effective when he ducks blocks, because he does it as often, but he doesn't make the play on the backside like Derek Johnson does. I'm not even kidding. I think Derek will be a great coach at some point. I'd love to see him get a little taste and get a little start tutoring somebody that's on this roster right now. Oh, Aaron, our fearless mod, is here, but I'm sorry to hear that your basement is flooded. Dang, Aaron, I apologize. That sucks.
Oh,
I have
flooded basements. That is the worst, man. It's a bummer. Sorry, Aaron. Oh, and now, man. But now I know that I can say anything. Oh no, wait, that's for the comments. Never mind.
All right, easy. Not like I'm worried about you. Seth being part of that's not. Do you try to teach Ryan to spell and type? Can you do that?
I'm not. Look, I am a man of faith. I think everyone knows that about me. I'm a man of deep-seated faith, and I believe in miracles. I believe miracles occurred. I believe that the universe was created by an almighty entity, and I believe that a man walked on water. But there are some things that just can't be done, Eric. There are some things that are just too much unless there's divine intervention. Now, I won't rule that out, but Ryan and I have been down this road, and I need to preserve my sanity. It's kind of like Ryan having to deal with me in this forum, but he's actually got like patience and grace, whereas me, I'm just like, I can't do it.
This is why I don't write for anyone anymore. That's 4 syllables I can't do. I can spell 3 usually. 4 is bad.
Spelling things out phonetically, that's probably good enough.
Yeah, hey, they'll get the gist of it. It's fine. Sansana, Chiefs fan from the Ukraine. Well, welcome. Nice to see you. It's funny how this channel is growing internationally, and I enjoy it. And so everybody who's let's see, it's late in the day for me. So in the Ukraine, it's got to be what? Early morning. Good morning to you. I've been watching the channel for over a year, and it's amazing to see your development. Besides injuries, what can stop the Chiefs from the Super Bowl? Well, thank you. And yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, don't let Andy Reid get COVID.
Good Lord. I mean, that's not wrong. I would just say, besides injuries, the only thing that can really, is the fact that it's really, really hard to get to the Super Bowl at the NFL level. Really, really hard. There are things that could happen. Like you could have I was on with Seren Petro the other night, and he was asking me the best case and the worst case scenario for the new offensive line. So if you end up with the worst case scenario with that line, right? That could really affect them. Although I think they could still get to the Super Bowl even with the worst case scenario for that line. It's just going to be tough to win it. It really injuries, and then just the fact that the whole any given Sunday mantra. It really is true. It's incredibly hard to get to the big. There's a reason why no team had ever hosted 3 straight conference championships before, even the Patriots, because it is so hard to win games at the NFL level. And I think that's really it. The same thing that's facing everyone else is that it's just hard. It's a one-off game. All it takes is, a couple of bad drops and a game get out of hand, things like that. They look really good on paper though. They had that massive weakness, and Brett Veach was like, give me a minute. And now, people are like, well, did the Chiefs do too much with their offensive line? Were they too aggressive at the expense of other positions? And maybe, but I don't think so, because it was their biggest weakness. And so they went out and attacked it. And I love that.
At the end of the day, Mahomes is a force multiplier. Yes, you need weapons, but he makes every weapon better. He doesn't make offensive linemen better. He relies on them to protect him, and I think they put the priority in the right place. I'm not going to listen to anybody downturn what Veach decided to do. Couple of quick ones here. Michael Ford, I don't know that they're waiting, but if there's a camp casualty, they'll gladly pick it up. We've got about 10 minutes, folks, so we're going to power through these real quick. Lance Harper, Dorian is unfortunately not progressed. I had hopes for him. He's a tweener, and he didn't make it. That's about all the conversation I got for you.
I would say a similar thing. Sutton and Spagnuolo haven't trusted him with a consistent role in the defense. I'm going to have to assume they don't quite trust him to hold up at the point of attack, or because you could put him at will, because he's an incredible athlete, unbelievable athlete. But they must not trust him with the responsibilities in terms of coverage and stuff. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, that's my thought as well. Great one from Avery. And Avery, I'm glad you made the Zoom the other night. That was fun. Seth, you got to take this one. This is a good one. Who has a bigger impact in year 2, Snead or CEH?
Well, who do we need to have a bigger impact?
Oh, see, you're reading better than me even.
Like I said, there are miracles, but some things are beyond. I'm going to need to repent from that later. Like, oh, there's one thing you cannot do. It's like, anyway. I think who would be better for the team to have a bigger impact is Snead. Because if Snead has a great year, Snead isn't on the side of the ball with Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs don't need Clyde to have a great year. They don't need him to be incredibly impactful. They just don't. Yeah. Damien Williams, decent player, never an all-pro type, never like this stud playmaker. He made really timely plays, is a Chiefs legend for a reason. Always played better in big games. Love Damien Williams. I mean, he made me cry during the Super Bowl. I mean, I dropped my knees and wept. So, I love Damien Williams, but he's demonstrative of the fact you don't need a big impact from your running back. You need some help. Whereas with Snead, if he has a big impact, that alters a lot of things on the defense. And so as long as you have Mahomes, it's almost always going to matter more when a defensive guy has a really big impact because Mahomes is that good.
Yeah. Like I said, force multiplier. Guys, I'm going to try to hit all the questions here. Voodoo asked, Clark Reed, Naughty Jones at DE play the base with Bolton in the base. Is the run defense better?
On
Arguably,
paper with that group? Yeah. On paper. Yeah.
I mean, there's weaknesses, but yeah, they are better than what they had out there last year, which got them to the Super Bowl. So yeah, I'll take it. Trevino, no, McKinnon is not taking CEH's spot.
Barring injury.
Lego, good question. Thoughts on Parks? Will Parks, the old Bronco, is going to come over here. And I'm going to have more on him coming up in the next week or so. I'm not gonna give it away yet, but I'll tell you after you guys see what's gonna go on. So let's see. Questions. I'm hitting questions, you guys. Scott Meza, have you noticed Noddy slimmed down and bulked up? Can that benefit him this season? I hadn't noticed that. Had you?
I had not noticed that or heard about it. It could, but with what they want Noddy to do, they don't need him to rush the passer. I mean, it's nice if he can walk someone into the quarterback's lap, but I don't know if he needs to really slim down. In terms of bulking up, dude's bulky. So I assume you mean like he slimmed down and added some muscle mass. I'd be great to see. He's a rock. And so, I mean, I just don't see it impacting his pass rush. I think there's some physical limitations for him there.
That I was going to say, that's my only thing. If he dropped weight and he got more explosive by training, that's the one thing, because he just doesn't come out of his stance fast enough to be an effective pass rusher.
Right.
He eats gaps. He works hard. And if he gets somebody on a secondary move where they have to run away from Frank or something, he's there. We've seen him make some splash plays.
Yep.
But it's that get off for him that he has to improve. And I hadn't seen it, but I hope that you're right, Scott. Thank you for that one. Lego was talking about Darwin is really impressing me with the stuff that he's doing off the field. I haven't seen any of that. So I'm glad to hear it. Have you, Seth?
I have not, but it wouldn't surprise me one bit with all the things I've heard about him. It sounds like I'm going to sound like a billion years old here, but I've heard he's a great young man, which again, I'm a billion years old, but that's what I've been told. He also might be the most shredded human being I've ever seen in real life. You went. I forgot you were at training camp with me because you knew exactly what I was going to say. I watch you go, oh, no. I am telling you, I have never seen a dude built like that in my entire life. Not in real life, not on the movies, not in 300, nothing. I was like, I wanted to walk up to him and poke him, but that seemed like the wrong.
No, that would probably be bad. I'm just
kidding. Yeah, that probably would have offended him. But it's just like, bro, are you wearing one of those bodysuit things? But anyway,
spray on muscles.
Yes.
I want to address this one real quick. I didn't see what Gooch was saying, but if Gooch is saying it, it's gold. Take it, Isaac. There is no requirement for super chats. It's just a way to support us. It is not any way, shape, or form a required thing. One thing that is required, if you want your question answered, is you got to put question marks in front of it because I can't read out of the chat well enough otherwise. Super chats are you supporting us. Is not any way even expected.
No pressure.
It's just that Gooch is, daddy. It is what it is. Travis, thank you for your super chat. I do want to say that. And the other thing, to be honest with you, Isaac, the super chats are colored in order for streamers to see them better. And it does make a difference. I will admit that as well. Stevie, without a need for a QB, is there any player in the NFL you trade multiple firsts or a first and a second to acquire right now?
If contract were not an issue, without a needed quarterback, I think with the issues on the offensive line, I think Aaron Donald's always the easy one. He really is that good. I was watching Joe Tooney versus him, and they had their backs and forth, and Tooney did a decent job, but he lost some too. Mm-hmm. Watching someone try to block Aaron Donald, including Tooney's an absolute technician. He does everything perfectly, and he's got some decent power. He's got good feet. He's got some athleticism. He's a really good guard, and it's stressful watching someone try to block Aaron Donald because his power and athleticism combination it's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, he looks more athletic than most defensive ends, like the vast majority of defensive ends. And he looks stronger than the vast majority of the defensive tackles. I mean, he's a freak. So, I mean, I'd trade multiple firsts for him. Like if you're talking, contract, trade availability, not an issue, then yeah, Donald is an easy choice. And they should, I don't know, trade for Julio Jones. I don't know. Why not?
Yeah. No, I'll pass on that.
Yeah. It's a little.
I give a first and a second for TJ Watt. I'd give 2 1s for Chase Young. That's about where I'm at.
Yep. Miles Garrett is awesome too.
I'd give I might give 2 seconds for Diggs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Diggs is an awesome receiver, and you see his impact on Josh Allen. Man, there's a lot of great receivers in the league right now. But yeah, Diggs, I'd give a couple picks up for Diggs easily.
Yeah. Delwayne, thank you. I think Darryl will be a beast this year once the online gels and can open a real hole and they can hit it hard. I think that's what he's best at. I agree that's what he's best at. Absolutely. I hope that's what they get to. Do you think, just as an offshoot about the hole size, do you think they're going to run more power man stuff?
I do. I've seen people talking about this, and I'm toying with the idea of writing about, zone-based versus gap-based systems. You start to toy. I try to be careful with stuff. I'm very honest with people about my level of expertise. I'm not a coach. A lot of people can explain that stuff better, and it's really easy to get lost in the weeds. But that one distinction there might matter for the Chiefs this year because it looks like they're grabbing some guys looking to do some stuff in order to be more successful with their RPOs and against some of the fronts that they've been seeing. And I do think you're going to see some of that. I very much do. I mean, Humphrey isn't necessarily a mauler, but he can do it.
Yeah.
And I know that's one area where Dan and I know we'll get a chance to chat at some point because he doesn't necessarily see Humphrey in that role. And I mean, I watched him and I thought, man, I guess I see it. I don't know. And so like grabbing a guy like Trey Smith, like obviously Orlando Brown, it looks like they might be trending that direction a little bit more.
I hope so. That's what I'm living for. Cole asked, do you see Shane Buechele making the team this year? And if so, how long do we keep him? I see him as a practice squad player.
Maybe. That's, they just, that's the problem with fringe people is any one of them could make it.
Yeah. Danilo loves him, you guys. And that's great. If you like a player because you like his traits or whatever reason, that's great. I have trouble seeing it. there's a UDFA that makes it all the time. You just got to prove it. You got to do it.
Yep.
Thank you, Real KT.
Yes.
I appreciate the shout out. Click that like. That helps us. Okay, this is going to be scary. I should probably check this before. Never mind. Okay. Andy, a very old friend of mine, can confirm that Ryan will never improve the spelling of words or things. He's slightly better at spelling than Kevin, but yeah, okay. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that. I miss you too.
I'm so glad to be correct.
And thanks there, H. I appreciate it. 386 should be 200 likes. If you guys would hit the like button, that always helps. We're a little bit over 400 right now, so I'm glad you guys have time on Thursday. I'm glad you're making it a thing. If you're somebody that follows Seth and you've never seen this before, click the like and the sub and the bell notification. You will get more.
Every Thursday, we plan on being here chatting, whether it's live or on a video. We plan on being here every Thursday, and this has been so much fun. Yeah. I like this a lot.
It's going to be great. We got one more. Worry about Pringle, the fact that he's 28. I thought he was 27, but okay, either way. Should know who he is, or do we know who he is?
Go Gooch.
He is Go Gooch. Yes, I get that.
Have you ever heard of a receiver who broke out after 4 years in the league?
No.
I think because he's coming in, or is he coming into year 3? No, is he coming into year 4 or year 5?
It's at least one of those. It's not 3.
It's year 4 because he is restricted free agent tender or something. I can't remember how they brought him back up
now.
But I believe because he got hurt year 1 and then he had 2 healthy years. I can't think of a receiver that broke out in year 4. Like really broke out, right? You got guys that maybe expand their role a little bit. And I think Pringle does have a good skill set. I think he's a guy you can throw on the field, and in the Chiefs system, you get him some targets. I think he'll make some catches. But I don't. The idea of who someone is after that amount of time, I think especially at the receiver position, I think that's true. That's why, when we talk about McCole Hardman, you got year 3 here. Year 2 was a goofy one. COVID, no training camp, all that. If he is exactly what he was in years 1 and 2, at that point, you pretty much know, this is who he is. And that's not a knock on Hardman, not a knock on Pringle. It just is what it is. Not everyone, again, not just because Tyreek Hill was like, not even like this. It was like this, just not everyone can continue to improve. People peak. And that is the limit to what they can do physically, mentally. That sometimes just is it. Not everyone has this unlimited ceiling that you can just keep picking away and improving a little bit every year, or in leaps and bounds. Kelsey's gotten better every year.
Yep.
Even as he's a little slower than he used to be, he's better now. It's crazy, and not everyone can do that. So that's worth remembering. And I think with Pringle, he probably is what he is at this point.
Yeah. The only thing that would make me think that he still maybe got a little upside is that he was behind Sammy. But that doesn't explain why they like Robinson better and always have. So
yes,
that's what it comes down to is can he take even a slight step forward and beat out Robinson for snaps? Because I think when he has been on the field, he's made plays, right?
Yeah, he has. He's made some plays, and he's got a skill set that I think people find tantalizing. It's the same reason everyone's infatuated with Cornell Powell right now, is they see a skill set that they know is kind of lacking in Kansas City a little bit. And I get that, but it's hard to see it. Now, the team loved Sammy. And so getting snaps over him was just not going to happen. So he's got a chance right now. Hardman hasn't grabbed this thing, right? He hasn't grabbed that bigger role. He's got a shot. It's not like they were going to let Robinson walk until he didn't have a big market. So, of course, they brought him back for a cheap deal, and it was very smart of them to do that.
Yep, that's an easy decision.
Yeah, easy decision. Bringing a guy can produce in your system. Easy all day, but it's not like he's set in stone. So Pringle's got a chance to grab something here that maybe he hasn't had any other year. And I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, it would be a great story. We'd never hear the end of it from BJ and Herbie and Matt Derrick. I mean, they never shut up about it. It would be awesome
for him. I'd be happy to see it. Do you got a minute or are we done?
For you, and by you, I don't mean Ryan. I don't mean that guy that can't write. I mean you, dear watchers. Of course, I have a minute.
Okay, we got
Viewers?
just a couple of questions. Viewers, yes.
Yeah, watchers sounded way too creepy. Viewers.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a whole different thing. Lego, I don't know that it'll be a cap casualty. He might have some issues, or he might have trade value.
Right. And in terms of cap casualty, it's worth noting, I think if they designate him as a post-June 1st cut, I think they break even this year. But then, they take a little more of a penalty next year too. It's hard to see because, you break even, and it's hard to cut guys like that. So it's hard to see, but I think like if Trey Smith comes in and plays well, Long is looking healthy, and they've got some other guys. I mean, that spot is not guaranteed. There's a vicious competition there for those last 2 or 3 spots.
I like it. Harlan, I'm glad you're here. It's okay if you're here for Seth. Trent asked, Ronnie's grandson, maybe, I don't know. What are each of your favorite moves this offseason and why? Could be anything. Shotgun style. Give me 30 seconds on it. Go.
My favorite offseason move has to be the Brown trade. It's got to be it. The clear position of need, good player. They just crush it. They didn't have to give up too much for him. Easily my favorite move.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll take you even a step further. I was going to say the same thing, but just the fact that they identified the need, they went and got it done. And not Tooney, you couldn't get Williams, you went and got Tooney. You're bolstering, even if you couldn't get the tackle, you were going to improve that line no matter what. And I like that aspect of it. So a lot of positive comments about Seth in here, as always.
Man, you guys are way too nice. Like, I genuinely don't know what to say. That's very, very kind. I don't do well with praise. So Ryan, you say things now.
Okay, I like you too. It's good. Folks, these are our Twitter handles. You can follow us on there, and then you get all of his Substack, which you can go over here and subscribe to. That is where you got to get the written words, because you'll never get them from me again. And then Gooch has one more. Is there one receiver who broke out named Harrison? Out year 4. Really?
Was Marvin year 4 before he broke out?
No, I would have said year 2. I'm sure Coach knows what he's talking about. I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, I believe him.
Dang.
And I totally, I'm sure there's at least one. There's always, anytime you're dealing with thousands and thousands of players. So yeah, but I would say this with Marvin Harrison. So in year 4, I mean, he was huge, but it's worth noting that he had 836 yards as a rookie, 64 catches. His second year, 73 catches. Third year, only 59, but he had over 750 yards all 3 years. And then, broke out huge, which, you can see the Peyton Manning timing there. So I would say there's a big difference between a guy who's been pretty productive, like fairly high level receiver 2 productive, jumping up to receiver 1 versus doing virtually nothing and then jumping up. But yeah, Harrison is a good example of that, of at least jumping up a level after in year 4. So that's a really good example. Nice poll, Gooch.
Well done. I will tell you this, for all of you who are here, thank you very much. For all of you that super chatted, we cannot thank you enough. You members, if you're all pro or elite, send me your contact information so we don't mess that up. We will be back next week. I know we didn't touch on the schedule very much. I'm sure we'll both comment on that. Otherwise, we just had too many things to talk about. So you can definitely hear about it on the Locked On Chiefs podcast, and maybe we'll pull Seth into that too as well. But Seth, thank you for your time. Watchers, thank you for your time. Watchers, I did it again. Dang it. All right. You guys have a great night. We'll have more for you tomorrow. Danilo's got something. I have a piece from Matt Derrick in the morning. And then make sure you watch out Sunday night. I have a couple of things cooking. You guys have a good night. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.